Hey, welcome to Paper Cuts with Colleen. I'm Colleen, and today we're talking about collecting. So, you might be thinking, she does a lot of collages, but where does she get her paper? Where does she get her books? Where does she get her magazines? Well, today I'm going to tell all my secrets. First things first, I want it to be known that I am not a hoarder. I do not collect mounds and mounds of paper. I don't have a trail from my door to my bathroom filled with stacks of magazines. That is not true. In fact, I only have one small, very thin, although tall, bookshelf that houses all of my books and magazines. And I make sure to keep my collection lean because if I don't, I get super overwhelmed because I just don't know what to choose from and it just feels completely overwhelming. So I tend to keep about, I'm going to say between 75 to 100 books or magazines at any given time. And if I am paging through one and I don't see kind of a lot of interesting things, I am unafraid to go ahead and throw it away, recycle that material. You might be thinking, yeah, okay, well, where does she find these? There's not usually a lot of vintage or old magazines laying around local garage sales, although sometimes there is. One place I really love to look for magazines is estate sales. Estate sales are a really fantastic kind of treasure trove of printed material oftentimes. I mean, they can be really creepy because you're essentially walking into somebody's house left untouched. And I usually avoid the bathrooms in that situation just as a personal policy. I've found entire rooms full of old magazines that people have just been saving for me to come and find. So what I do is I find them online. I search for my area and I search for, your name of your town and then search estate sale. Just into Google, just that simple, and a list will pop up. Usually spring, summer, fall is the best time to go if you live in, a climate in which winter is, pretty oppressive. When you go into estate sales, you should always go right around the time they're closing on the final day of the sale. So I tend to show up about a half an hour before the end of the sale. I spot the magazines, old books, and I kind of linger around and wait until the sale's ending, and then I try and start negotiating with the people who are holding the sale. It's a really great way to get a good deal because if there's a ton of magazines or books left, they just don't want to haul them away. So it's much easier if I do. So they're much more likely to give me a super good deal. Personally, I don't like to pay more than 50 cents a dollar for a book or magazine. So it's a great way to find a good deal. A couple other places are used book sales, thrift stores. Always take a look around into strange, unique places and you'll find some interesting things. Once you start collaging or you have friends who you're talking about collaging with, they are apt to completely try and give you their vintage collection of 17 magazine, which is completely awesome. What I do is I always gladly accept all materials from people and then I very carefully curate which ones I'm actually going to use and which ones it's better for me to either take it to a thrift store for somebody else to use, give to a friend, or recycle. So that's kind of a very nice way to get their old magazines and transform them into something that you can use. You can also go on the internet. There's eBay. There's a lot of sites online. As you may know, the internet is full of information and ways to buy things. So check out lots of different resources online. I personally haven't had much luck using them, mainly because I'm stingy and the whole 50 cent to $1 rule eliminates pretty much all shipping. So you might be thinking, okay, so she is creeping around these places. How do you determine what exactly you're looking for? Well, I have several ways that I have found to be tried and true to figure out the perfect material, books for collaging. First one, the topic test. If you see a book that is just an amazing topic or has a fantastic cover of an old magazine and that you have to have, do it. I got a book of tiny animals, and I thought I've got to have this because it's just the cheesiest thing I've ever seen, And so I got it, no questions asked. I got a book of small arms, so it had tons of different weaponry and just different angles of guns and just people with very tiny arms all over it, and I loved it. It didn't really have the small arm people, but it did have actual weapons. And I've used it a lot in my collages. It was just something that I saw and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And it's going to be really funny if I check out with a book of small, adorable pets and guns. So second test is the flip test. As you can see, I have a book right here. This is for documentation of said flip test. You open the book. Step 1. Step 2, you flip the pages and you look. Oh, look, there's a weird, super strange shape right there. That looks like something I might be able to use in a collage. Oh, that's a balloon falling from the sky for some reason. That's interesting. That's a really cool blue. Maybe I should take this one. So if I pick up a book or magazine and I see several things in it that I'm like, that's pretty amazing. I feel like I could do something with that. I go ahead and buy it. So the third important test, which is kind of the deal breaker test, is the mold test. So that one kind of is a real deal breaker for me. So what I do is when I'm paging through, if I see any sort of water wrinkling or deterioration, if I see anything that indicates there's been any sort of just discoloration on the pages, that could mean that it has gotten wet at some point and then dried out, and there could be mold in the pages. A lot of the books are vintage that I'm using. A lot of things you'll see out there have been around for a really long time, and it's just the pages are falling apart and deteriorating. It's really easy for mold and nastiness to get in there. Also, the smell of smoke, cigarettes, is something that is kind of infuses itself on the pages. So if that's not something you're into, just I would say take a pass on that. Take a pass. So those are kind of my 3 rules when I actually find a book, and then I go ahead and buy it if it passes 3 said tests, and then I go home and I destroy it. So there you have it. Those are my tips and tricks about how to find the best materials to collage with. If you have any questions, leave them below. And if you'd like to see some of my collages, they are all over the internet, as you can see right here. I also have a Patreon page. If you'd like to find me there and support me, it would be much appreciated. Until next time, collage. Cut out that last part. It's terrible.